Hello,
I don't.
everyone. It's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with.
Someone who doesn't read the Boruto manga.
And today we're going to be starting up episode 6 of the Two Guys Talking podcast, the podcast where Ryan and I just talk on a Facebook call about whatever. So Ryan and I were now talking about Naruto and Boruto. I just got caught up on the Boruto manga. That being said, Ryan just pointed out that I hadn't read most of the Naruto manga. I feel like it's not required reading. I feel like people can pop into Boruto and have like a good understanding of what's going on without having a lot
Yeah,
of knowledge of Naruto.
because that was in Naruto. Yeah, all that Ten Tails stuff. Yeah,
Well,
all that important stuff.
all the stuff that's talked about in the manga, like in Naruto, that's also in Boruto, gets re-explained in Naruto. So it's not like you're like missing out,
Mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important. It's just that we spent 700 chapters doing non-important stuff. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, that's kind of how it is, though, because I would argue similar things from like Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. Like it's like you can understand Dragon Ball Z without having read like the Dragon Ball manga and then stopped at the point where Z starts because it's weird because in the manga it's all just one thing. And a similar thing with like Z to Super. I feel like you could like jump into Super and be pretty alright without having like known about Z. What are your thoughts on that? Like, would you agree or disagree with that?
Dragon Balls, Dragon Ball, and Super, right? From the manga.
Yeah, from a manga perspective, it's just the Dragon Ball manga, and then there's the Dragon Ball Super manga. But with Z and Dragon Ball is like anime, you have like the Dragon Ball anime, and then you have the Dragon Ball Z anime. You got
For some
GT, which is weird. It's its own extra thing. Is GT anime only, or was there a GT manga?
I don't think there was a GT manga. If so, I hadn't heard of it, but I wouldn't know about such things.
I also think I think GT was just anime. But I could always look that up. Um, but enough about like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT, unless we want to talk about those things. Let's pivot into just like topics, like stuff that we can talk about in general. I brought up last time that the fifth dimensional imps are capable of like wiping out the multiverse and like destroying universes on a whim. Right now, there's this situation where all the superheroes in DC Comics are fighting Perpetua, and Perpetua is destroying the different worlds of the multiverse. Why is it that the fifth dimensional imps can't just stop Perpetua on their own? If they can like destroy universes and then reverse the destruction of those universes, then why can't they just reverse Perpetua's destruction of universes? What are you
Why would they want to reverse such a thing?
So in the recent Superman Batman annual, essentially Mr. Mixelplix makes Superman like the reason for why the multiverse is being destroyed. And we see Earths in the multiverse essentially getting like Thanos snapped to dust kind of thing. And after Batman and Superman fight, because that's the whole reason why they made Superman like the cause of multiversal destruction to provoke Batman into having to fight Superman. They then reverse all that. So they like undo the fact that like Superman was the thing that was destroying the different universes and all the changes that have been brought back from them, they just kind of snap them away. So it shows that they can destroy universes and they can undo the destruction of universes. But right now there's a big event where like the multiverse's destruction is a big deal, but the imps aren't saving the day. They aren't like reversing the multiversal destruction like they do in the annual. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it seems pretty casual, right? Can destroy things, bring it back.
Right. So why is it that Perpetua, who's causing everybody so much trouble, the imps are like, I can't do it, can't be bothered, you know?
Mm.
Um, Now, there was something going on in the recent Scott Snyder run of the Justice League where there was something about like imagination being thrown out of whack. It was when the Justice League was going to the sixth dimension or whatever. The imps were acting like they were kind of like crippled or whatever, like they weren't at their full power. But if that's the case, then when does the Superman Batman annual stuff happen? I guess all that's like post Dark Knight's death metal, I guess. So conveniently after death metal, the imps can like wipe out universes and bring them back, but not during the event. Like I don't really know. Um, but that seems rather convenient, I guess, that during the events of the thing they can't do anything. Do you have any interest in reading like modern DC comics? Why or why not?
Mm. Why would I need to read it? Why can't I just have Jet vaguely tell me about stuff?
And that's up to you. Um, I'm thinking about playing Boruto Shinobi Strikers some more. It's been a minute since I've like picked the game back up. But I've been recently playing Spellbreak, and like the appeal of Spellbreak to me is that it's a battle royale, but it's not like a gun-based thing. It's based on using superpowers. But then I recently remembered, wait a minute, I already was playing a battle royale where you use superpowers, and it was the Boruto like battle royale thing. Like that's just already a thing. Um, and in the Boruto one, you actually make like a custom character, and you
You
train
prefer
people.
the Rasengan to be yellow or like blue?
Ooh, okay, so I like this question. This is related to something that I was talking to Ryan about earlier on Facebook, where I saw art of Naruto in what mode is that? Like when he has the yellow and black in the anime?
Um, so essentially he has two or three moves that are that sort of various design. The first one is he has like Ninetales chakra mode, is where he beats up like the yang chakra half of Kurama and takes a bunch of his chakra. And so that's when he's all like glowy. And then later, him and Kurama are friends. So Kurama just lets him have like access to like all of it. So then he has essentially the same thing, but it's like more elaborate. Like it's like the coat jacket thing instead of just this, not that. And it's like, thicker lines on the face and stuff. It looks different, but it's functionally a lot similar. And then he has a slightly similar, it's like even more elaborate when he has the Sage of the Six Paths chakra. The Sage of the Six Paths has his soul ghost thing give a bunch of his ghost chakra to Sasuke and Naruto. That's where they get those little like moon and sun things on their hands, and they use that, and so they have a bunch of like various powers and things that they can do during that. Um, and then him and his adult, I guess it's just like because I don't think he has that uh, Sage of the
Six
Six Paths
paths thing
chakra
anymore?
anymore, but he still has like the so like Nine Tails. What was the name? It's like what's the difference between the Nine Tails chakra mode and then the second one where Nine Tails just lets him have the rest of it? Essentially, it's just back to having the rest of it. Um, because like like their arms get destroyed, the ones with the like the sigil things on their palms. Like that's when Sasuke gets his fancy eye thing. His
The Renegon thing that lets them switch places or whatever?
I'm not sure if it's a Rinnegan or a like a Rinne Sharingan like name merger. Because like there's an eye that has both. It's like the things that those Otsuki guys have, like on the center eye, where it's like red usually, and I'll have like the Rinnegan, but then also all the Tomos. I'm not sure if it's called. It's just called Rinnegan. It could be either because it has both the Tomos and the ripple pattern.
I'm caught up on the Boruto manga, and so far, whenever Sasuke does like the switch places thing, the villain without fail is like, that annoying Rinnegan. Like the villains at the very least know
Well, it's also
it's something
purple, I
else.
think, supposed to be. So it's not the actual like Renisharingan, which is like red. So yeah, I guess it's just a fancier Rinnegan eye or something. Um,
Oh, but you asked me if I prefer the Rasengan to be yellow or blue, right?
it's yellow in the manga, but it's blue in like the anime.
I have not seen the yellow one. Like I've never seen the manga one like painted. I've only ever seen the blue one. And I've thought the blue
You've
one
never seen like the cover art that has like yellow Rasengans?
I have not.
No.
Um I,
Although I think it might be yellow in the last movie or something like that.
um I personally like the blue Rasengan mainly because I'm used to the anime's portrayal of chakra being like a blue aura most of the time. So I'm like, it makes sense for the Rasengan to be blue because that's just like they're swirling the chakra around and stuff. Um, I was talking to Ryan earlier about a picture of Naruto in the Nine Tails chakra mode that he was just talking about, where the image was colored as orange and blue, which I actually think looks a lot cooler than when it's like black and yellow in the anime and in the games and everything.
I mean, it's
Because
black and yellow in the manga too.
interesting. So that like colorized thing that I saw, was that like a fan art
But the
thing?
other colorized also have it similarly like yellow and black.
Interesting. I'm curious
from what
what the thing was I saw then. Because maybe it was like a fan art thing included with the scan or something. Um, but I like the concept of it being orange and blue. Not only because orange and blue are complementary colors, but because Naruto's like base color scheme from back when he was a kid was like an orange and blue motif. So I feel like it's fitting for like the character because it's kind of like a reflection of his history. He's kind of moved past the orange and blue color scheme as he's gotten older. Like it's not as prominent anymore. So it's almost like a return to your roots thing, but it also just kind of like pops more. Like I
See, on their wiki, it says that the standard Rasengan varies even more. On the cover of volume 52, it's yellow. Or in Boruto, and on the covers of volume 67, or wait, it's yellow. Well, in Boruto in 67, and on the third art book, it's blue.
okay. So it sounds like there's like some variation between the different colors that it is. Um, do you know the whole like backstory behind like the Otosuki or whatever?
I mean, I sent you the clan Wikipedia page that has their whole backstory.
Well, recently in the manga, like within like the last few chapters, it got
Mhm.
revealed to Boruto, like the whole story about like what's going on with Otosuki.
I'm
It sounded like it got
vaguely
revealed to the
aware of a
main
lot of it
cast.
because I have looked at that Wikipedia or that page, reading it a little bit, and some such things here and there.
Um, it seems like Boruto has leaned like really hard into like a lot of like the sci-fi because it's like aliens and cyborgs and like the scientific ninja tools. They fought one dude who had like regenerative abilities due to his like cyborg core, and he was using like viruses to fight them, not like computer viruses but like disease viruses, and then they had to beat him by getting like antibodies and so like it's getting they're focusing a lot more on like the sci-fi elements of everything, and I kind of like it. I like this direction for it, but it makes me curious how different the anime is because I know that you were watching the anime for a bit, and whenever I would bring up manga stuff, you're like, well, that's just not happening like in the anime. So do they not talk about the comma stuff, like the hand mark stuff in the anime at all?
They haven't gotten to that point.
Um,
Like none of that's been introduced yet.
is Kawaki in the anime at all?
No, like that hasn't been. So the anime is taking like a longer route. Like they're stretching the whole thing out.
Mm.
So like they'll take like a couple hundred episodes before they even get those guys like appearances, let alone developing any of that stuff.
Mm.
So like where I was at, like 150 episodes in, neither of those things had appeared. Boruto had the little like diamond shape on his palm, like after fighting the Otsuki guys or whatever. But like
Okay,
he had
that's the karma. Well, karma, I think is what it's called.
uh but he hadn't like he doesn't know what that is or anything. Like
Okay, he recently learned what that is in the manga.
right.
Um, well, it's weird. It's a thing where like earlier on in the manga, he's like, "Oh, it just like absorbs chakra or whatever. It lets me absorb chakra." And then later on, they were like, "Well, no, it also like resonates with like other karma because Kawaki has one." So they can kind of like sense stuff that's going on with each other sometimes. Like it gives them like a connection in the force or whatever. And
Mhm.
then later on it's a thing where it's like Kawaki sees another guy with a karma use an ability, and then Kawaki goes, "We're on the same wavelength. So like if he can do something, I can do it too." And he uses like space-time manipulation jutsu with like no training. He's like, "Oh, he could do it. Boom, boom, I can wow, I'm going to another dimension." And then Boruto recently also did it. So it just seems like it's a thing where you can almost detect like what someone else with a karma is capable of, and you can just copycat it. Um, but it's more than that too. Essentially, the Otosuki, which as you know are like aliens that invade planets and they drain the planets of all their chakra to make a chakra fruit so they can eat it and evolve and then they go to the next planet or whatever. The way that they
Mhm.
resurrect is that they put a karma on you, and then as the karma continues to like develop and progress, eventually if that alien dies, the karma kind of acts as like a weird like holocrux thing, and they take over your body.
Announced in Harry Potter. Yeah,
The
it's like a kind of
horcrux, right?
parasitic attachment.
um but the weird thing about it is that they can set multiple karma on like multiple people, but then when they resurrect in one person all the other karma go away. I don't know why it's like that because the description was like a data dump. Like the karma is like if you put your consciousness into like a mark on a person, essentially. And then it's like essentially your consciousness is being downloaded into that person slowly until it fully overwrites that person's brain, and then you just become them. So I don't know why when you resurrect in one body, it causes all the other marks to go away. It seems like it would be too late because those all those marks would have just been actively downloading, right? Like why like I don't know how it like undoes itself so quickly, but then the process itself to like go in is so slow. You know what I mean?
Hmm. I was looking at that. So I think like the name of when Naruto has like full access to Kurama's power is just like Kurama mode.
Okay. That makes sense.
Like that's when he can do the full like tailed beast transformation looking thingy.
So,
But it's not a
yeah,
transformation. It's just kind of like a replica.
right. Like where there's like the big energy nine tails and he's like in its forehead or whatever. I think sometimes he rides on top of it. He's not always inside of it. But you're
He
talking
can almost summon like Kurama like out of him.
Mhm.
Like separate, like independent. Like he does so in Naruto the last movie, like when he's on the moon and such.
Mhm.
Uh, because like they're like friends and things, so he can just like Kurama can just come out. Uh,
Cool. Yeah. He hasn't done that yet in these manga fights that I'm seeing Naruto in. But speaking of the manga fight,
or at least I think maybe it's not that he comes out. It's Kurama could take control of it and act independent of it, like the chakra manifesting thing.
okay. Um, with these like Naruto Sasuke fights where they're fighting different people in the manga, they fight this one guy named Jingen, and Jingen starts talking like real shit. Well, it may not be Jingen. It might be Jigen. I think it's Jigen. But Jigen starts talking real shit about the Susanoo. He's like, ooh, the Susanoo, like how like underwhelming or whatever. Like I expected more from it. And Sasuke's like, you dare mock me? And he tries to slash Jigen with his Susanoo sword. And then Jigen is on top of the sword. And he's just like, it's slow too. I wonder if the defense is shitty. And then he just kind of jumps up and he kicks Sasuke in the face, even though Sasuke's like inside the Susanoo, and he
Hmm.
blasts Sasuke out of it. Is the Susanoo supposed to be like a really strong defense thing? Like, is it supposed to be something that
For like
resists?
people who aren't like Otsuki guys. It's also not like it's got like an aura and then like a more physical like component to it. So like you can like kick someone out of it, I guess. Sort of. Like because it has like kind of like a skeleton spine, and then the skeleton like that's how it starts. So like base is like a skeleton, and then it'll like kind of like continue to like grow like kind of like muscle fibers up along all it, and then like armor on top of that. And but like you can also like kind of like move like up and down like inside of it, kind of like the way that like Naruto can have people like floating in the head of the tail
Karama chakra thing,
types.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that makes sense. Because I thought it was weird when he did kick him. Because a lot of what the Ototsukis do, it seems like it's more like they have like a cool technique. Like it's not that they're just strong. A lot of times they're like, I'm also using like an ability. Whether it's like a jutsu or I have like cybernetics or something. So when he does just kick him in the face, I was like, but how did he get past the defense? But based on what you're saying, the aura part, like if you're just like in the head of the Susanoo or whatever, maybe
Well, I mean, if he's in the head, he still should have somehow penetrated like the armor. So I'm not sure how he got in there still.
neither do.
Like
Like that's why.
potentially like it depends on how much the Susanoo is manifested. So a lot of the time, especially like earlier showings of it, people won't manifest like the full body. It'll just be like the torso up. And if you do that, then you could just like crawl up underneath like the rib cage area and just get in there. Like when uh when Madara, Tensei Madara was fighting Gara and like in the desert, he had like, the Ito Tensei or not Ito, the Susanoo, with like the arms, and he's like slashing people with the swords. But then Gara can just like is trying to like grab him with sand, like on like his feet, because he's just like standing. Because and then later, he'll manifest like the legs and such, so they'll be like tall and walking around, full body or fuller body. And then like when Sasuke is doing it, it's usually like a full body with like wings and stuff, so it's flying around. Like later, a lot later. So like with the ribcage, like you can manifest partial bits of the Susanoo depending. So like in Madara's case, he has like his kind of like because you have like the Susanoo, and then you have like a perfect Susanoo, where it's like even better. So like that earlier Susanoo that Madara was using, and that he like uses a whole bunch, that's like his not perfected one. His
For the
perfected one is like
for the
a lot
audience's sake,
bigger and like
what is
covered.
like a Susanoo?
What?
Because we've been saying a lot of the terms around, but for people who may not be as familiar with Naruto, could you define a Susanoo real quick?
Susanoo is a big old powerful like ethereal warrior kind of thing that people with Mangekyo Sharingans. I think specifically they more or less it's like in both eyes to use it. Like sort of originally they kind of implied that like um one eye was like for Tsukiyomi, the other eye was for like Amaterasu, and then like both eyes was like Susanoo. Something weird like that, but that's not like a rule necessary. At least maybe in like Itachi's case or something, right? So it's usually only people with like two Mangekyo Sharingan. So like Kakashi and like Obito couldn't use Susanoo for most of the time because they only had one eye, like each. So you need at least like two eyes to do it.
Okay, so we get that it's like an ethereal warrior that you can summon if you have two Mangekyo Sharingans. For those who don't know what a Mangekyo Sharingan is in the audience, could you define what that is real quick?
Well, wouldn't you have to start with like a Sharingan?
Well, I'm trying to go like backwards through the terms because you also said like Amaterasu and you said
Well, there's also like other Mangekyo Sharingans to get like the more powerful Susanoos, I think, and so like there's perfect Susanoo. What's that? Like Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, I
before you
think.
get into like types of Mangekyo Sharingan, what is a Mangekyo?
A Mangekyo Sharingan is pretty simply a higher like tier, like more advanced form of a Sharingan that has a bunch more really powerful abilities and things.
Okay.
that you
And
can-
then I think you'd be like what a Sharingan is kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
So
what is
Sharingan is a special dojutsu passed down the kind of bloodline of one of the Sage of Six Paths sons. Um, what's his name? Like one I think is Ashura.
are these like the statue guys that are in the
No,
Leaf Village or whatever?
what do you mean statue guys? What are you talking?
Because I know there are these
Indra and
two
Ashura are
statues
her two sons.
that the characters will like
Uh,
stand on when they fight, like Naruto and Sasuke.
those are statues of the first Hokage and Madara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
So Indra and Ashura are two of the the Sage of the Six Paths sons. One inherited kind of like the body and like spirit, kind of like physical energy of like the yang bit of the Sage of the Six Paths, and his other son inherited like his special eye powers, right? So his and gave rise to the Senju and Uchiha clans, descendants and things. So the Senju clan has like really strong like chakra abilities and like long lifespans. And the Uchiha clan developed the Sharingan, which is a dojutsu. So it's an eye jutsu. So they have eye powers.
Okay.
To get the Mangekyo Sharingan, you have to do something along the lines of like killing your best friend or something really especially traumatic like that to unlock it.
Okay.
The second Hokage goes into a more weird, like biological technical description of like the Uchiha are able to unlock the Sharingan because they have really strong emotions, and the emotions like manifest chakra like in their brains and like ocular nerves, creating the Sharingan, which is why you get like a more powerful Sharingan like when you're like more emotionally like unstable, and like that's where like the Mangekyo comes in and such like that.
Now you also mentioned Amaterasu, and you mentioned Tsukiyomi.
Mhm. So Amaterasu is a powerful ability that people with the Mangekyo Sharingan have, in that they like spawn a bunch of like unquenchable black flames based on their line of sight. So like anything they look at while they're using the ability will like burst into flames that essentially you can't put out. It's something like it's either burn for like 7 days and 7 nights, or it'll burn until the thing that it's like on fire is like completely destroyed, or you can put it out with another Mangekyo Sharingan, or the same. It's kind of unclear because usually it, yeah, like how, like you can kind of like retract it into you or something like that, like turn it off, which is also as taxing as using it. And it's very powerful. It'll burn stuff.
I've
You can't
seen,
really get rid of it very easily.
I've seen two methods of getting rid of Amaterasu in the manga so far. One is like absorbing it through karma. Well, karma. I keep calling it karma for some reason. So because karma can absorb energy-based chakra, but not physical matter-based things, it can like up like the Amaterasu, and then it's like I'm not on fire anymore. The other thing I've seen is one of the Otsutsuki or whatever has the ability to shrink stuff and then put it back to its normal size again. And he can also shrink stuff and store it in like another dimension and then bring it back just the way it was when he shrunk it and like grow it back to size. So he can also take like raging flames that don't stop and just shrink it down. So even though he was on fire before, it's like the fire's so small it can't hurt me. And then I like zip it to another dimension. And then I zip it back and I put it on you kind of thing. So those
I
are
mean, there are other ways. Like the caster can make the things stop burning. Sasuke does that on Killer Bee when he uses Amaterasu on Killer Bee to essentially stop the fire so he can capture him. It's also shown you can use the Deva path to like push it away from you. The Deva path is one of the paths of pain, the gravity manipulating one. Well, it's not great. It's attractive and repellent forces, so you can like push it off of you.
what are the paths of pain?
Um, well, people with the Rinnegan have a whole bunch of special Rinnegan abilities. And the one maybe most famous is pain divides like it's not in the six, but it's because it's six plus the outer path, which is like a path over like life and death. So there's six different paths and they have various abilities and things. So like the Deva path has attractive and repellent forces, so you can create like really big like waves of like repellent for essentially like gravity waves where you can just like push things away from him or pull things to him. And depending on how much chakra and like kind of like effort you can like essentially like destroy like a whole village with it or something, which he does do. You have the human path, which it has limited tactical use. Essentially, you can extract people's souls, usually by placing the hand over like their head, like their forehead or like their chest, and you can like pull their soul out. When you're doing like over the head thing, you can also like their mind, pull like mind or something, and then pull their soul out. So it's like a soul extracting thing, but it doesn't really have any other like uses except for that really.
Did you say you can read the mind when he pulls the soul out?
Yeah, you can like read people's minds, so it's like a good use for informational gathering.
Don't you
There's
just
also
die when your soul's ripped out of you?
yeah, you die, you're dead.
That
So
sounds pretty good.
there's the well, I mean it's good, but you can't use it in a fight unless you're like actually hitting someone.
Is it really slow, like the soul removal?
Kind of.
I mean, it seems like if I could restrain you, maybe using like the Deva paths, like by pushing down force on you,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
I can't move, and then I like soul rip you, and you just die.
the other paths. There's the animal path, which allows the user to summon a whole bunch of really giant and varying size animal summons, all of which also have Rinnegan eyes and the shared field of vision that all Rinnegan pain eyes have. There's the Naraka path, and what's the other name? There's a chakra absorbing path. I can't remember the name. It essentially allows you to have a kind of is like two things. Is you can absorb people like by touching them, or it's like a chakra slash like ninjutsu absorption. So like you can, if you're like grabbing someone, you can like drain their chakra. Or you can have a kind of like barrier around you so that any kind of like chakra projectile, like a Rasengan or something, that like enters in the barrier will be absorbed like into the barrier and thus like into your sort of chakra thing. So it's like a very powerful like defensive and a neutralizing ability.
Who don't know what is chakra?
Jet, why are you doing this?
I'm just saying because I just feel like there are plenty of people who watch who probably
Okay,
lost.
well, the Otsuki clan are a clan of like multi-dimensional like alien beings, and they try to like destroy planets or like absorb their life force or something with these ten-tailed seed god tree things, and they like absorb all of the life on a planet and turn it into a fruit that has chakra. Get chakra by eating the fruit.
Right.
That's where chakra comes from.
That is
On Earth, in the Naruto world, Kaguya was the Otsuki clan member tasked with like, you know, absorbing and destroying the Earth, and she ate the fruit, but then she like liked the place, so she like betrayed her partner and like stayed there, and so she had kids, and then the kids had chakra, and she got really pissed off, so then she tried to kill them by absorbing the god tree, but then they defeated her using a bunch of their powerful powers and chakras, and they ripped all of her chakra out. Well, essentially, she's like one with the ten-tailed god tree thing. So they ripped out all the chakra, sealed the body in creating the moon. Like the moon is one of the abilities of the Deva path, and well, derivative of this is Chibasuku Tensei, is like you can use the attractive gravitational power to create like planetoids. Essentially, it like you have like this like black hole core thing, and it'll like absorb a bunch of matter like from like the surrounding area and just like create a planet. So that's how they create the moon, and they put the chakraless body inside of the moon, and then the Sage of the Six Paths, what's his name? It's like Hagamoro. Yeah, Hagamoro. He absorbs all of the chakra.
Now, when you talked about the God tree, the divine tree or whatever, the way
Mhm.
that it's described in the Boruto manga,
Have you ever seen it? You can see it in the Naruto manga. You know, if you actually read
read the
it.
Naruto manga, they
It's
describe the like divine tree as absorbing the chakra that's already like in the planet.
so what Kaguya? Yeah, I mean,
So I thought it was interesting when you said like chakra comes from the fruit because like
it
it seems
kind of
like chakra
does
comes from the planet.
the same thing.
What? Not really, because like the tree absorbs the planet's chakra and then makes the fruit. So it doesn't seem like the fruit could be the source if it comes from the planet chakra, right?
Um, that's well, I like because there's like chakra, but then there's also like nature chakra, like senjutsu stuff, which is different.
Tell us more, because this is like a learning thing for me too. You know a lot more about like Naruto stuff than I do. The only
Mm.
thing that I can say I know about is the Boruto manga, and that's without having any of the foreknowledge of like the Naruto manga stuff.
Okay, so humans didn't have chakra until Kaguya came around with the chakra fruit and the god tree thing, right?
Mm.
So her two kids, Hamura and Hagamoro, were the first humans to have chakra, right? And then they like defeated her, and then Hagamoro spread chakra to everyone else vaguely, and created like a kind of like religious teaching practice called ninshu, which evolved into ninjutsu, um, which everyone used to kill each other, despite that wanted to do.
Okay. It's good to
Chakra is this kind of like any thing that you can use. Some people can use, I guess, better at it than others. They can like mold it and like net it, their inner chakra, to weaponize it, and they use like ninjutsus and stuff.
what is like sage mode?
Sage mode. It's a mode that sages enter in when they've amassed a bunch of nature energy and like nature chakra. So nature chakra, like nature energy, to enter the mode. It has various sorts of abilities, like a bunch of sensory stuff. You can sense like nature, and it has various sorts of like enhanced physical strength and stuff like that, as well as being able to use a bunch of other abilities, or like higher tier like ninjutsu that you couldn't otherwise probably do. Ninjutsu, let's see, are specialized field of jutsu that involved use of natural energy, used by sages that draw natural energy into their bodies.
Makes sense.
This chakra adds a new dimension of power to the user's technique, while also allowing for the use of techniques that would not be otherwise be possible.
Sounds right. So there's a chakra like lightsaber thing that got introduced in the manga a while back. I don't remember what happened to that. I think they had to give it back to the person who makes the ninja science tools or whatever because it's too taxing. It like takes like your raw chakra and drains it from you to make like a continuous blade that you can use to cut through stuff and fight people. But I'm curious when or if they're gonna bring that blade back. I thought it was like a cool addition to what they had already, but I wasn't sure what makes it better than like a normal sword that you then could like enhance with chakra. You know what I mean? Like, because it seems like you can already in Naruto like take like a blade or like a shuriken or something and put your chakra on it to like make it more powerful. And that seems like that would be less taxing than forcing all your chakra to like form a blade. So I didn't really fully understand what the use of the blade was, but the way they were hyping it up, it sounds like it would need to be better than that for people to be excited about it in the first place. You know?
Sure.
Speaking of when people like enhance weapons with chakra or whatever, does that only make it like hit harder, or can you infuse weapons with like elements and stuff? Like how far does
There's
it go?
chakra blades, which that is a member of.
Tell us more about chakra blades. I don't know a lot about them.
They're like weapons that you can infuse chakra into.
Can't you do that to like any weapon though?
No?
In the video games, they have it where like you can charge your shuriken with like a little bit of like energy before you like throw it.
A chakra blade is a special made metal that can be infused through chakra flow with elemental chakra or even yin yang chakra to produce effects. According to Shikamaru, the blades are able to absorb the chakra type of the user and become the origin of a technique for the user. So like Asuma uses chakra blades, his trench knives. He can like do a bunch of like wind chakra nature and cut through stuff.
I don't know who Asuma is. Does Tintin ever use chakra blades? I know she used a whole bunch of like projectile.
Doesn't happen to be, watch Naruto or read Naruto.
I
How
got
do you know
interested. I got interested in Boruto, so I decided to read
And he's
Boruto
dead.
manga
Yeah.
or whatever.
You know Shikamaru, right?
Yeah, I know Shika. He's one of my favorite characters.
And you know Choji, right?
Yeah, I know Choji as well.
You know Ino, right?
Yes, I know who Ino.
You know how everyone's on like 3-man teams with like a Jonin sensei?
Right. I know that
They're
Tintin's on the
Jonin
team
sensei.
with like Neji and Rock Lee, right?
What?
Isn't Tintin on the team with Neji and Rock Lee? Or am I fucking up?
Yeah. Yeah, Tenten is on the team.
Okay, yeah, I was asking, does Tintin ever use Chakra Blade? Because I know she uses a bunch of.
But she does use some of the like legendary tools of this age of the six paths.
That sounds cool.
He has a bunch of special items. Like three or four is three are used by the Gold and Silver brothers. So they have a bunch when you see them in the war. Uh she especially liked the giant fan that allowed you to use like any of the chakra natures, like a really big attack thing, but it like drained like all of her chakra. But she was like really into it. She still has it. Like in her weapon shop in Boruto, she just has it like on the wall, like as a display thing. Uh, so she could use that, I guess.
Now, Ino in Boruto is like the communication person. She has
Yeah.
this thing that she can use where anybody can talk to anybody.
Mhm.
When did that get introduced?
I don't know, a while. Like her dad was the main communication guy during the war.
Hmm.
So he had this big headset thing hooked up to some other guys and things. They have a whole like communication core who are like these kind of guys who are trained to like tap into that thing because like the Yamanaka clan have a bunch of like mind based powers, so she can like do this mind control thing, but they can also do this like telepathy thing, and so like the people in the communication core could because he was the guy at like headquarters who was like coordinating everything, like the orders from headquarters. He would like send them to other people in the communication core who would then pass them on to like the people fighting. But he died, so she kind of takes on that role, I guess, if she had to.
She does this weird mixed thing where she also like still runs the flower shop. And
Yeah, she runs.
she'll be like, stuff's going down. I'm doing both. I'm still doing the flowers. And I
Yeah,
find it interesting that she's in the mixed role, I
it's
guess.
like her family's flower shop.
Yeah. I remember that from Naruto. Like I have like little exposure to Naruto. I watched like the beginning
Maybe you
of
should
the
try
Naruto
watching or
anime.
reading Naruto. You would have a lot of information and like any of these questions or just things, you just wouldn't be able to explain them better.
Well, this is also for the sake of the audience. I'm not completely lost when you bring up stuff like the Mangekyo Sharingan, but I know that like certain people who watch won't know what all that stuff is. You know what I mean? I don't want them to get too lost in the sauce.
I mean, they're already lost in the sauce.
They're slightly less lost.
I mean, it'd just be helpful if I could just like send you all of the Narutopedia links to the things that I'm vaguely misremembering. Like I didn't even finish getting through all the paths of pain before you got sidetracked and shit.
Interesting.
Like there's more interesting paths. Like there's the Naraka path. He is like this interesting. Like it's not like he summons the King of Hell, which allows him to do a couple things with it. It also like is kind of like invisible, except for people that he's using this special like attack on. So like when he touches you, usually when he's like grabbing you by the throat or something like that, the King of Hell will appear. Like you can only see it if he's using the attack on you, and like it'll open up, and a chakra hand thing will come out of its mouth, and it'll grab your tongue, and it'll pull your tongue out a whole bunch of the ways, and then he'll start like interrogating you, and you essentially like can't lie because if you tell a lie, then the hand will rip your soul out through your mouth, and he can store souls in the mouth of the King of Hell. He can also put other pain bodies in the mouth of the King of Hell because the King of Hell is kind of like a summon, kind of, except it's invisible to people or something. And he can repair the various pain bodies in the mouth of the King of Hell. So like if you destroy some of the paths, except for the Naraka path could eventually like reconstitute them all. In addition to his thing. With the outer path, one can summon the King of Hell to revive people's souls back from like the afterlife and back into their bodies. Probably by killing the caster of the jutsu, because it seems really intensive on like your life force. I'm not sure what kind of limitations there are, because the only people like 2 people have used it, and one of them was already like really weakened and close to death, Nagato, when he used it, and he used it to bring back everyone who died in this whole big battle, which killed him. And I don't think Obito died when he used it, but he also was like at the same time at various points like absorbing Chinchuriki, like Ten Tails chakra and stuff. So maybe he didn't die from one of those reasons. I don't know.
Would you say that like Naruto and Yu-Gi-Oh are the two fandoms like? Well, maybe Naruto Yu-Gi-Oh
Ashura Path is a path. Essentially, the body of the Ashura Path allows you to be like a weird cyborg robot man, and it allows you to summon a whole bunch of weird weapons and things. So like when Nagato did it using his own body, he was essentially like spawning like robot arms out of his like normal, had like laser cannons and missiles and stuff. When Pain does it, like in the separate path of Pain, it's just like a body that has all this weird body modification opening up, missiles coming out of his head and all that kind of stuff.
That sounds weirder than the other ones.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Why does it make you into like a robot person?
I mean, you can like spawn. It's just like you kind of like grow robot bits out of you, like when Nagato does it on his own body. Nagato, when he's doing his whole Pain thing, he like divides, because he can do all of these abilities himself, but he has like kind of like crippled, like his legs got all fucked up with like paper bombs that just like grabbed onto his legs and exploded. So his legs were on fire and all burnt. So he like can't walk. He's like immobile. So he uses these bodies of like Jiraiya's historical enemies that he, and like his best friend that died. He essentially does some weird thing where he's able to like he has these chakra receiver things. They're like these black metal piercing things. He can put them into someone's body and like radio like distance, like send his chakra to them, and he can like control them like a puppet sort of thing. And then they also get Rinnegan eyes in them, and they look kind of like him. Like they all like get the same hair color, and he can do that to like 6 people or something. And he divides a bunch of these 6 pass abilities, 1 per body, because essentially it allows him to like better focus and like specialize the abilities that way. It's unclear if each of the bodies can only do the ability, because the Deva path he uses a couple other like unrelated but interesting like jutsus. Like he's using the Deva path to do like the magic lantern jutsu and the special like impersonation transformation technique thing.
What's the magic lantern jutsu?
You know, like when the Akatsuki are meeting up in like their bases and they're all like rainbowy, glowy, ghost-looking things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the magic lantern jutsu.
So like lets you talk to people as holograms, like remotely, essentially.
Yeah. It essentially allows you to like, yeah, like they can talk to you because they like meditate, and then their chakra hologram thing appears in a place. But it also allows you to like do stuff. Like they can use that chakra hologram to like perform their like sealing jutsus for like Jinchuriki. So it's kind of like an astral projection type thing, more than like a chakra hologram.
Someone got sealed in an object in the manga,
Mhm.
and the guy who sealed them was like, and only I can free them from the seal or whatever. And then they just freed him using like space time jutsu. They were like, the object is like, there's space inside the object, and there's a space that we're in, so we connect the space, and then he gets out. And
That's
I thought that
amazing.
was an interesting like circumvent.
Um, do. There was when Obito was trying to capture Minato in their battle. He actually managed to like grab him and was starting to like suck him into Kamui through his Mankakyo Sharingan power. But like mid being sucked in, um, Minato was able to like teleport away.
Kamui is like a other dimension opening thing that
Yeah,
you
it's
can
a
make
different
with your
sort of
Rinnegan,
space
right?
time jutsu. Allows you to do some sort of weird portal type stuff.
Do you think Naruto is ever going to introduce like multiverse stuff? Because we have,
They already have other dimensions.
well, other dimensions and other universes aren't like the same thing. Like we don't
I
have,
don't know if there are other universe, but there's other dimensions.
right, but that's still very different. Because like another universe thing could be like, it's the universe where like Naruto's evil, like that kind of thing. Like,
There's a thing in the movie. It's like the sixth Shippuden movie. It's a Road to Ninja, where it's kind of like that. Naruto wakes up and he's in this kind of like reverse world thing where like Sasuke is like still in the village. Hinata is like really bossy. Um, do like his parents are still alive, except like the him version from that world is like evil, and like the Akatsuki are like good guys. It's a very interesting movie, but
is
it's
it a
actually
dream thing?
yeah, it's all some sort of elaborate genjutsu that Toby puts him on. I think he called it like limited Tsukiyomi. Essentially, it's like some weird anime filler episode or not episode like filler movie practice run for the infinite Tsukiyomi.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, so is that their equivalent of? Because that's still very different from having other universes. It's not
And it's
quite.
supposedly gotten.
Yeah. Because you mentioned in the anime for Boruto, they have like time travel. As we've mentioned before, they
It's
have
like
this
they use an Atsuki
continuum
clan
stuff.
artifact. One of the Atsuki clan is trying to time travel to do something. I think he's trying to like steal some like the Nine Tails or something like in the past. It's unclear because he doesn't actually get to get where he's trying to go like in time. Boruto and Sasuke like kind of like kick him off of the platform like into the time stream, and so he lands in the past, like with Jiraiya and such, like when Naruto's like 12. So that's where they end up. But that's not where he was. That's seemingly not where he wanted to go. But he's like, well, while I'm here, I'll try and steal the Nine Tails chakra anyway.
Um,
So you have to like kid Naruto.
what Naruto power would you want in our world if you could have any one Naruto ability?
Probably Kamui, because it's kind of two abilities in the same sort of thing. Like it's like one ability thing, but it can be used two like pretty much separately distinct ways.
How
Well, I mean, I guess three ways or four ways, depending if you start doing the Kakashi thing. But mainly just like Obito's Kamui abilities, like with that eye, because I guess they're like separate eyes. Each have like half of the Kamui powers, and when you put them together, he's really strong. Actually, Kakashi gets like hella strong for like a good 2 minutes.
how would you use
Then he
Kamui?
gets even stronger because he gets a power up during those 2 minutes.
So how would you use Kamui?
I mean, the same way like Obito does. Just do that. Like that seems pretty good. Like you can teleport around to pretty much anywhere. and then you can like teleport like other things, and like you can like shoot weapons out your eyes at like high speeds. All kinds of like range, like it's like all ranges attacks. You can like grab someone and like whisk them away into another dimension where they're trapped, unless they can do a space time jutsu to like escape. Um, you also have this kind of like intangibility thing. So what that is essentially Toby or Obito is like shunting parts of his body into the Kamui dimension. So if like you like have like a big like I don't know Rasengan thing, and it's like taken his whole arm. Essentially, he just like shifts his whole arm into another dimension, and then it'll like come back once the Rasengan has like passed through it. So essentially, you just like slide through him, where like he's like just like kind of like dodging his body parts to another dimension, and so he like a bunch of attacks just miss right through him. Uh, a lot of the ways. You can also like slip through the floor and like pop up underneath you or something. I'm not sure how he moves around down there, but he can like pop out through like walls and such. So he can also use it to like slide through any kind of like barriers and such most of the time.
It makes it sound like he.
It's kind of like the thing that the one guy in like My Hero does, but like without all of the drawbacks.
Right. Well, it sounds almost like whenever he's phasing into something, what he's really doing is like phasing into another dimension
Yeah,
and
his combo.
then like teleporting that other part of him like in back into the real world but through the object that he's supposedly phasing through. So it's
Yeah,
not like his
it's all
hand
kind of like
actually.
seamless. Oh,
Yeah.
it's weird. Yeah.
Um so it's like he's pseudo phasing, but that's also weird because if you can teleport, why not just teleport your full body through the
Not
barrier or through whatever the thing is?
can if he hopped through a whole attack full body. Now he's just in the dimension for a minute or something, you know. Um, but he can just teleport because he can do the eye swirl to absorb himself essentially into the Kamui dimension. Um,
And then just exit back out like where he wants to be kind of thing.
yeah, whatever.
So I'm like, I guess I'm wondering why he does the phase thing. Because the phase thing just sounds more
Defensive move.
complicated.
It's like only used defensively. So like there's no like transportation involved in the defensive sliding through stuff.
Well, you mentioned like phasing through barriers or like partially through
Yeah.
walls and stuff. And like, what's the point of that?
What do you mean? Because he just walks through stuff. Like he can just walk through walls.
But you could just because it sounds like he's still teleporting
And
through
but
a
then
wall. Like,
like the same thing with like the floor. Like you can like slide into the floor and then like slide up underneath someone and then like fuck them up from behind. Like because the teleporting thing, it does have like a time. Like it does take a few seconds or something to like absorb himself, and so he is like kind of vulnerable during that time frame.
so when he's phasing, is he actually phasing? Because I thought it was being explained that he's like going into like the other dimension, but partially, similar to how he's like phasing his
Yeah,
limbs. Or is he literally in the ground? Because if he's like
yeah.
actually just
The
going
answer
into
is
the world,
both. It's not very well explained.
so we just don't really know. So it's
Yeah, we don't know how he like moves around underground relative to because he's also just like in the other dimension or something. It's very weird. He doesn't do it very often.
it sounds weird.
Yeah, but it is pretty useful if we get to jump on something.
I would probably go for the transformation jutsu or whatever. I think shape shifting always sounds pretty cool, but then I don't see it used to its full potential a lot of the times.
Also weird and ill-defined often. It's always used in a kind of diversionary or like surprise, I'm not the guy who you thought I was sort of way. It's almost never used in a I'm gonna just shape change into like a big thingy and attack you. Like, because they do have similar dog abilities where it's just like I'm a little dog, now I'm like a big old wolf guy, or like beast mimicry type jutsus. that's a thing, but it's like categorically distinct, or maybe some sort of weird derivative of like a hinge jutsu. It's unclear what the differences between those types of things like are really.
Speaking of like shape shifting abilities, in the Legion of Superheroes cartoon, they have this guy who I think is named like Chameleon Boy or something, and he can like shapeshift on a genetic level. So he can do stuff like I shapeshift into Superboy, and I just have all the powers of Superboy because I'm like genetically like identical to like a Kryptonian or whatever. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing is like extremely powerful and useful. Um, but it's used similarly to like the Naruto thing, where it's like he only ever shapeshifts into Superboy as like a trick kind of thing. Like, oh, you think I'm Superboy, but I'm really Chameleon Boy. Instead of it being a now I just fuck you up because I'm like Superboy kind of thing. And I don't know why things are like that in fiction. Maybe it's so that they're not always having like multiple Supermen on the team kind of thing.
Or even just like for like weird stuff, because like in Naruto, like he was able to like do a 2-person like trans of like him and Boss Toad into like the Nine Tails, because he's like, yo, I'm like man, and I don't have a good way of like grasping and like onto like
Gara's,
Shikaku. So he
yeah.
turned into the Nine Tails with like claws, so he could like grab it.
Hmm. I remember that. And that is a cool use of like the transformation jutsu, specifically to give him what he needs in a situation. Like it was like a utility thing rather than a like trick thing. Um,
Yeah, and the couple times that it's used that way, and they're essentially like only in like part one, except I think they do it again in like part two as like a reference to that other time.
Recently, like I think in one of the latest chapters of the Boruto manga, Sasuke throws his sword, but it's actually Boruto. And it's a thing where the enemy they're fighting can shrink anything except living things. So he's like, why throw the sword when I can just like shrink the sword? And then he fails to shrink the sword because it's Boruto. I thought that was cool.
Mm,
Hopefully, we'll see more of the transformation stuff. I feel like
probably not. No,
I think Dragon Ball.
but that's probably the extent that you'll see to the trans versus like in the same way that like Naruto turned into a to like dodge a thing and then like untransformed and like attacked from behind. It's that's pretty much the extent to like offensive transformations. Is you thought I was a weapon, but I'm actually just a guy, and then I attack you.
I feel like they're not using it to its full.
They're not like using the transformation to attack. Really, the only time I can remember doing that is the Boss Toad thing, and even then, it's not like a super effective kind of thing.
How does Mitsuki make his arm stretchy? Is that not transformation jutsu?
No, no, that's an Orochimaru thing. Orochimaru has all kinds of weird shenanigans and snake powers and body mod that he's body so he can like stretch and like turn into snakes or turn into stretchy snakes or like shed his skin through Orochimaru style substitution, which is where he like opens his mouth and just a new Orochimaru comes out. Sasuke did it too once when he's fighting um, Itachi. Took a lot of chakra to do that though. Yeah, Orochimaru can just do all kinds of shit like that, and he just and Mitsuki can too, because reasons. If you want to know more about that, read that origin story manga chapter with Mitsuki.
One of the Otsushiki calls out Mitsuki for his origins or whatever. Like,
Mm.
I think someone calls him like the son of Orochimaru or something like that in the manga. Like,
Orochimaru is his parent,
mm, I
singular.
don't know. Um, let's see. The main thing that I think I've really done today is look at the Boruto manga. Because I had to read from chapter 36 to chapter 50 or whatever to get caught up. Oh, I also published a comic, Rift and Tone, issue number one. It's available now on Amazon as an ebook. It's a 16 panel 8 page comic that I did in Microsoft Paint. So the art's probably not going to be like the best you've ever seen, but it's a simple like superhero origin story for Rift Tone and their villain King X. So I hope you guys enjoy that if you guys decide to pick that up. I feel like if you go on to Amazon and look up like Rift and Tone superhero, it'll probably be like the only thing that exists that has that name. I'm actually curious. I haven't tried to look it up. I used an ampersand for and, by the way. So I'm going to try and look it up on Amazon and see if it comes up. Rift and Tone superhero. Because I could be wrong and it just may not. A, it's the first thing that shows up. And the second thing is a Legion of Superheroes thing, which is interesting. I didn't make that one, but I wonder why that's the second thing that comes up. It's interesting. But yeah, that's my first comic. Feel free to pick that up if you guys are interested in reading a comic. Speaking of like making comics based on stuff, Ryan, not too long ago I was playing Spellbreak, and while playing Spellbreak, I was coming up with like character ideas with the audience based on my Spellbreak character. I'm thinking of doing that if I play games where I play as a custom character, and then making characters based off of my game personas. Do you think that's like an interesting idea? And do you think that's something that you would ever do? Why or why not?
Mm, I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. If you were to start reading a DC comic, which DC comic do you think you'd be the most interested in reading and why?
Boruto.
Boruto, the DC comic.
I'd start reading that over. I'd probably start reading like one of those like modern DC comics, like you're talking about.
Understandable. I mean, you do know a lot about like Naruto stuff already, and you already have like an interest in Naruto, and you already have seen like some of the Boruto anime. So it you have like a lot of reasons to want to check out like the Boruto manga. Whereas with DC, I mean, you like watched all of Batman Beyond and you watched all of Teen Titans and you like the DC AU movies. So it's not like you have like a passion
I
for
watched all
you watched
Batman
all
the
of Batman
animated
the Animated
series
Series. You're right. Yeah, it's not like you have a passion for DC.
and
But
Young
you
Justice.
do. It sounds like you. Oh, and Young Justice. Haven't you watched Young Justice multiple times, Ryan?
Yeah, at least like season one several times.
Wow. I mean, it's not like you love DC and should totally read DC comics so they have all those characters.
Yeah, the DC comics sound weird and shitty all the time.
You also enjoyed All Star Superman as well by Grant Morrison.
Yeah, yeah, because it wasn't weird and shitty all the time.
Well, not all of it's gonna be weird and shitty, right?
I didn't say it was.
It's mainly like continuity stuff that's like weird,
Yeah,
I would say.
putting my words in my own mouth, Jen.
Putting my words in my own. Um, but I think you would like DC comic stuff if you checked it out. Um, Plus, we could complain more about continuity stuff that you catch that I wouldn't catch. Because I think that's possible. You could read
No,
some.
no, no. I probably have to have like a whole lot of because it's like that stuff. It's like referencing earlier things and it being contradicted by like newer things. Like know about stuff like from like Convergence or like what happened in like Flashpoint or the crisis events of the past to like know what they've changed or like I would have to have some sort of like previous like baseline to compare it to.
You kind of
So I
already do from.
just like read stuff and wouldn't know that it was not supposed to be that way or something. Like their retcon would work on me.
Well, I feel like you do have the context for that because you just named a whole bunch of the stuff that you would need to know.
Yeah, it's like stuff you've told me about.
Right.
Like
But
I
just
don't know.
because I know about that stuff doesn't mean I'll necessarily like catch like a blip like when I read something. But you might
Uh,
catch a blip that I like might have missed kind of thing. Going off of the same knowledge base, you know?
mhm.
Um so what comes out this week for DC Comics stuff? Speaking of DC, I talk about DC Comics all the time, but I never really bring up Marvel. I know that when it comes to Marvel stuff, you watch.
You don't read Marvel.
Well, that's right. I mean, sometimes I'll read a Marvel thing, but
Mm.
but I know that you like the MCU movies. You really like Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Did you finish Spectacular Spider-Man, or did you just like start Spectacular Spider-Man?
There's infinite spectacular.
It's good. It doesn't
For
have an
some
ending.
reason, there wasn't a good reason to not finish Spectacular Spider-Man.
Understandable.
It never was.
Um,
I also
what
watched
Marvel
like
stuff did you watch?
um Wolverine and the X-Men.
Hmm. Did you watch any of the '90s like shows, like the '90s
Like I've
X
seen
show?
some of it on TV, like especially some of the Spider-Man reasons, but not in any sort of like consistent or like chronological fashion. So I just seen like random episodes, and I'm like, Spider-Man doing a thing. I don't know.
I think the '90s Spider-Man and the '60s Spider-Man, like Spider-Man by himself shows, are probably two of the most boring Spider-Man shows. I don't really like either of them. I feel like the other ones, I don't know, maybe there's just more
What
personality.
about like Spider-Man and his amazing friends?
I like
More
Spider-Man and
interesting.
his amazing friend. Yeah, it's more interesting than just like Spider-Man by himself for the old ones. Um, because I feel like a lot of Spider-Man shows, what makes them good is that they try to do something different from the previous ones. And I feel like the '90s Spider-Man show was trying to stick to the comics, but it had a lot of like character drama stuff, but didn't do it in like a way that would necessarily like appeal to me. I feel like a lot of the other Spider-Man shows that try to dwell on character drama almost go like the teen drama route, where the like '90s Spider-Man show, Peter Parker's kind of just an adult already. It doesn't, he's not doing like high school shit. It's like him and like Mary Jane are more or less like, I think like in their older 20s by then, and it's more them doing the adult stuff. I don't really care about that as much. Even though like we're in our 20s or whatever, I just feel like some of the stuff, I guess drama, for example, drama between people, I think is more interesting when you're like a teenager. Because I feel like teenage drama, you don't have like more important shit to care about. So you can kind of like focus on it and it be like a thing that kind of drives you. But I feel like as an adult, drama can bother you and it can be something that you feel like anxious about, but you just have other shit to do.
I mean, adults be like gossiping and I don't know what you mean.
I missed the last thing you said.
I feel like adults also be gossiping and stuff. Like I don't like all that relationship drama just also applies to adults.
I
Like it
think
doesn't go away.
I agree. I just feel like when I see adults do stuff, you kind of expect adults to just kind of talk about stuff. But for like the sake of like a TV series, a lot of times
Well,
they
here's
don't.
the Batman the Mask, the Max, uh, on the Read Comic Online website.
Oh, you're reading Batman in the Max?
Just saw it scrolling by.
Oh, okay.
They uploaded some new Lost Year compendium question mark.
I don't know
And
what that.
that's new.
So what I'm talking about mainly, Ryan, is that I feel like adult drama isn't as interesting in a TV show because TV shows like to prolong drama by making characters just constantly have misunderstandings and not talk to each other about stuff, which I think for teenagers makes sense. I feel like teenagers are still learning how to deal with that kind of thing and how to like talk to people and like socialize.
Maybe you're just overestimating adults like communication abilities. Because people in real life are just misinterpreting and like not communicating well. Like I don't know. It's not like inaccurate necessarily to like have that in TV shows or something, you know?
I feel like I think you're right. I feel like I do just expect more out of the adult characters for them to just like say how they're feeling and just be direct about a thing. But with the teenage characters, I feel like I give them a pass.
Like if you just think about like all the people in real life who are like, being like weird and irrational all the time. So this is how people are, you know? Like
Fair,
characters in TV shows can also just be like that, you know?
fair. I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm still looking at the Amazon page that has like my comic on it and what all the other things are. And like the Legion of Superheroes thing I think makes sense. But then the next one is like a MP3 called Riffs. That makes sense because my character's name is Rift. Then the next one is a $84 DVD called Claire's Knee. Like knee is in like the knee on her leg. Um Ryan, have you ever seen a DVD sell for $84?
I don't know why I would.
It makes me think it's like a rare
Like
DVD.
what like I don't, like you can have just like like some like video games that are just kind of on like DVDs could be like going for money if it's like an older game or something. Or like a foreign game or something. Just hard to get.
Yeah, I imagine it's something that's hard to get, like you're saying.
Like
But it's
movie
a
DVDs,
French
like I
thing
don't know
too.
why that would be the case. Cause like for games, like it's harder to just like find it illegally up on the internet and like for like console games and stuff. Like you can't do that as easy necessarily as you can for movies or something, you know. Just like
Right.
find it on YouTube and just watch it.
Or on like other sites like Soap Today or something.
Right.
Now, it says that the DVD is not discontinued by the manufacturer, but they also say that they only have like one copy left right now for sale. And it's like a French movie. Um, it's not ranked
Maybe
very
like it's a
highly
foreign
in.
movie.
It is like a foreign movie. One of the reviews for it is like a 1-star review, where it's like the DVD looks like it was made from a VHS tape, and they say save your money and just get the VHS tape. The VHS tape, by the way, is also being sold, but for like $23. But the DVD is like $84. So I'm curious if the DVD literally is they're just copying like the VHS tape to disc or something. Because that could be possible, I suppose. I don't even know what this is about. I think the title is weird because it's called Claire's Knee. It's an abrasive, self-deluded humor that tinges on the prickly exploration of sexual politics in French directors Eric Romer's world, and often makes for a less than comfortable viewing. Sounds like a really weird movie called Claire's Knee. Are you looking at ads?
Yeah, what was it you just trying to skip through the ad?
To play some copyrighted audio on the thing?
There's some sort of YouTube channel called like the Cartoon Cipher. I saw a tweet from theirs, and they're talking about a bunch of anime. It looks like they're mainly talking about anime here. Is like a playlist of stuff about anime dubs, like comparing dubs. Like this video was like, why do anime dubs recast actors? So they're talking about like actors that are different in like I don't know different dub or like later dubs or something, which is interesting. Yeah, especially like when you get like a voice of like a character like kind of like normalized like in your head, and then it's like a different actor. You're just like, oh no, that's weird.
I just realized for my Rift and Tone thing, if you don't say Rift and Tone superhero, my book just doesn't come up, even though superhero is not in the title of my book. I just know it's like one of the tags for my book. What if I say Rift and Tone issue 1? What? So if you say Rift and Tone issue 1, you still won't find it. That's kind of bizarre, because that just is the title of the book. Do, 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 do. What if I say Rift and Tone comic? That might be how you find it. Yep, it's the first thing that comes up if you say Rift and Tone comic. That makes sense. Um, Ryan, would you ever want to work on a comic together?
No.
No? Okay. Why not?
I don't know. Maybe I should ask Skelly.
The Skelly situation is interesting because I don't know
Updates
if
on that.
I missed the last thing you said.
Scott the Wise has a new video out.
Oh, okay. Cool. Also,
Number 3.
it's 11
2000.
p.m.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's see. Would you like to end the podcast for now? That way,
You can if you want.
okay. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I'm probably gonna like settle down for bed and get ready because I gotta work
Go
tomorrow.
read some comics.
But thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding 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 ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. There's your host, your friend, your boy, Jump Like the One and Only, here with
The Rasengan isn't yellow because it's hard to draw in cartoons. Maybe.
Peace. Chicken a guy. Oh, also, I'm probably just gonna watch the Scott the Woz video. You're like, the new Scott the Woz is out. I'm like, oh, I'll check that out. But anyway,
No.
see you guys soon. Peace.